Hey, J-Kick here, and I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. Welcome back for week 2, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this recap, and I'm excited to talk to you about how my teams did. And in the comments, I want to know how your teams are doing. Who are you picking up? Who are you dropping? Who are you trying to trade away? Or who are you trying to get in a trade? I'm always looking to see how y'all's teams are doing. It was a busy week in fantasy baseball and in Major League Baseball. The Rays lost their first game. There were a lot of big performances, Franchy Cordero, J.D. Davis, and of course Ryan Mountcastle, but also there were some call-ups, and some call-ups that are going to be happening this upcoming week, but we'll get to that later. One of the biggest things from this week I picked up was how many games had scores of 10 runs or more. There were 13 instances where teams scored 10 or more. The Phillies did it twice, and the Mets put up 17 in one of their games. The Phillies also got blanked 13-0 in one of the games, so there you go, that's karma. But that's crazy. We were talking about how stolen bases were going to increase. Look at all these runs that are being scored. Now, all this offense isn't the worst thing in the world, unless they're going against you in fantasy baseball, as long as it's your team who's producing the offense and your pitcher who's benefiting from it and not giving up the offense. This week, I had some tough matchups, some tough losses, but some encouraging results. We're going to start with my Kent Murphy Dingers. I had some big performances from 4 guys who were all batting at least .391 for the week. Brandon Nimmo, Austin Hayes, Spencer Steer, and Jonathan India. Those guys were all big bats for me this week. Combined, those guys gave me 28 runs, only 2 home runs, 17 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. Individually, Austin Hayes had 11 runs and Adolis Garcia had 9 RBIs. Pitching-wise, Urias and Bieber did both pick me up wins and a combined 22 strikeouts, but the game against the Cubs and the game against the Nationals for each respectively didn't go as planned. I probably should have had 2 more wins with those games. AJ Minter came in clutch with 2 saves. Alvarado, while he did stumble, did give me 5 strikeouts, and Jorge Lopez with a sterling 0.00 ERA. Those were just some of the stats that helped him win 7 out of 10 categories this week for my first one of the season in this league. Looking at these stats, a few that jump out to me are the fact that I do need to pick up some more saves, I do need to pick up some more steals, and I need to get my Ks higher. Hopefully, once Robbie Ray and Tristan McKenzie come back, those K rates will skyrocket along with those wins. As we move to the adds and drops for this week in this league, you might be thinking, why did you drop Justin Steele? I feel comfortable with the rotation and the pitching staff that I have. I feel like he's going to be productive, but I'm just not confident in how much his offense is going to provide for him. I was also lucky enough to pick up Bryson Stott. This week he's already hit a home run for me and picked up some stolen bases. I'm excited to have him on my team. I did have to drop Joey Meneses, but I was able to pick up Austin Hayes. And like I said before, he gave me 11 runs this week. That's phenomenal. I'm very glad I was able to pick him up. I'll be looking to see if he's available in any of my other leagues. I also tried to get cute and drop John Gray because he had a matchup with the Astros. Didn't feel comfortable with that. But Sean Manaea had a matchup with the Tigers. I really felt good with that. And he fumbled the bag. I'm not happy with his performance, but it didn't impact me too much. As you can see, I still did win the wins and the ERA in my categorical league. But man, I was really hoping for more for Sean Manaea. Because Sean Manaea did so poorly, I picked up Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer has been a surprise this week. Unfortunately, he did hurt his knee yesterday. I don't know how serious it is. He's going to at least sit out a day or 2, but hopefully he gets back into it because he's hitting close to 300 for me this year. I'm super excited because I really didn't think that Reds lineup was going to be dangerous other than Jonathan India, but they've been surprising. Also, I had to cut bait with Jake McCarthy. I was so excited. Going back to my draft recap, I was so excited for Jake McCarthy because I really thought he was going to hit the top of the lineup. I thought he was going to steal bases. I thought he was going to be hitting 280, 300. I was wrong. Man, I was wrong, at least in the first 2 weeks. I'm hoping he can turn it around and that no one else picks him up and I'm able to grab him and he steals me a million bases. But it's probably not going to happen. He might turn it around, so I'll be looking out for it. I really hope he does. I do still have Josh Rojas from that team, so man, that was a guy I was super excited about, Jake McCarthy, but it doesn't always work out. The person who took Jake McCarthy's place, Brett Beatty. His highly touted prospect for the Mets. He's going to be starting at the hot corner, might be sitting against lefties, but man, he has so much potential, and there's so much hype surrounding him. Eduardo Escobar was not performing up to standard, so that's why they went ahead and brought Beatty up. I'm excited for him. I'm hoping he does well, even though I do already have Nolan Arenado and Spencer Steer at third. Hopefully I can slot him in somewhere. I do also have Olsen at first and Nate Lowe at first. I have a talented lineup, especially at the hot corners. I'm just going to have to figure out what the heck I'm going to do and how to get these players in. We're going to move on to my Cheese Weasels team. This league fluctuates standings, so at the end of last week, I was 7th. I fell to 8th. I jumped as high as 5th, which is where I am now. I'm excited about how things are going, but I also made some major improvements on some of them, as you can tell. I was sitting at 80 some odd points, and now I'm at 104. That can change, and probably will change, so let's keep those points moving up. Some of the same players out on the Kent Murphy Dingers are on the Cheese Weasels, including Spencer Steer and Jonathan India. Another guy that did well for me this week, walks-wise, was Stephen Kwan. He picked up 6 walks for me. Trey Turner had 11 hits. Jordan Alvarez and Nate Lowe both had 6 RBIs for me and a home run each. Despite both hitting under 200, Starling Marte picked me up 3 stolen bases and 5 walks, and Christian Yelich picked me up 2 stolen bases and 2 walks. And Bryson Stott was phenomenal with 12 hits. Pitching-wise, Joe Ryan, Kevin Gausman, and Pablo Lopez all had games of 10 or more strikeouts. Well, that was phenomenal. Aaron Nola added another 10 strikeouts alone for his efforts in his 2 starts. And Eric Swanson, a pickup for me last week, added 3 holds. On the not-so-positive side of relief pitching, Duvall wound up with a tough luck loss, and Alvarado wound up with a blown save. Most of the drops this week came from being on the IL or being hurt, or underperforming. The latest report says Travis d'Arnaud still is not participating in baseball activities. Zach Eflin is supposed to be out a few weeks with his injury, and then Santander and McCarthy are not performing well. I said Santander. That's how I've heard the World Baseball Classic people say it. I call him Santander, but to each their own. You also see I picked up Elias Diaz and then dropped Elias Diaz. That's because I picked him up for that game because I didn't have a starting catcher because of d'Arnaud, and then he wasn't playing, so I dropped him. I also got rid of Desclafani because I thought he had a bad matchup coming up this week, but I did pick up Wade Miley, who surprisingly got me a big win against the Padres. 2 of the biggest pickups for me in this league were Spencer Steer and Bryson Stott. Spencer Steer is going to have a few days out, but Bryson Stott is hopefully going to continue his streak. He had 12 hits for me last week. He had a few stolen bases. He had a home run. He does have a hit streak. He's hitting in a powerful Phillies lineup who, like I said before, had multiple games this past week of 10 or more runs. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do given the opportunity. We're going to move to my Funky Junky Joker Monkeys in my Fantrax League now. We caught another L, but the individuals on this other guy's team made it almost impossible for me to win. He had some huge performances from individuals like Ryan Mountcastle, Kevin Gausman, Lance Lynn, Shane McClanahan, Adley Rutschman, Kyle Schwarber. The score was not as bad as it would seem. It was 504 to 472, but man, if I had had one of those players not perform as well, or maybe not be on that team, I definitely would have picked up that win. Absolutely. I say that, but my pitchers didn't help me any either. Freddie Peralta did not perform like he should have. Mackenzie Gore only went 3 2/3, and Bailey Falter only went 4 2/3. Similar to some of the other leagues, some of the individuals that played well for me included Pablo Lopez and Spencer Steer. Nolan Arenado did great for me this week. A player I picked up in free agency that's surprising me from that Reds team is Graham Ashcraft. I knew he had the strikeout potential, but he's really keeping the ball in the yard. Another surprising Reds player, especially in the rotation. I thought Hunter Green was going to be the guy for him, or maybe Nick Lodolo, but Graham Ashcraft. If for somehow he's still available in your league, grab him, scoop him up, and keep him on your team. We're going to reload for next week, look at the matchups, and make sure we get to 13 starts for the pitchers. Speaking of reloading, you'll see the adds and drops for this week were pretty minimal. I'm hoping Zach Plesac can continue to make some quality starts for me. I also hope that Brandon Marsh, even though sitting against lefties, can dominate righties and perform well in that Phillies lineup. In case Garrett Cooper ends up sitting or getting hurt like he did last year, I did pick up Harold Ramirez. He's playing for the Rays. He's always going to have a high average. He's not going to produce a whole heck of a lot for you, but at least he's going to be able to fill in for me. With the loss this week, I did fall to 0-2. Moving on to my South Harmon Institute of Technology team, I was again faced with a team that had everything working for them. You can look at the stats and see why I ended up losing 5-11-2. He had 20 home runs, 147 total bases, and 1,000+ OPS. Man, 2 leagues I faced phenomenal people. Hopefully, I'll have better luck moving forward. Even though I did get beat, the 5 wins that I did have will go into the plus categories for me. Those 5 categories are steals, lack of losses, ERA, whip, and then saves and holds. I figured these were going to be ones that I was going to win weekly, and I'm hoping that I can add to those categories. There will be times where I do win more, there will be some times when I win less. So let's just hope this 5-11-2 week is not one that we're going to continue to have on the weekly basis. Some of the same contributors to the other teams, India, Steer, Nimmo, and Olsen, all continue to do what they need to do to help my team be the best. But then there were others that really just did not do well this week. Justin Turner, Jake McCarthy, Trevor Larnach, the guy I told you to add last week, man, really lost on that one. Pitching wise, Merrill Kelly did well for me. Somehow gave up 1 hit, 3 earned runs, but they came from walks that he gave up. There were 4 walks that he gave up. Lance Lynn had a 10 strikeout game, had a few saves and holds, obviously 7 throughout the week. But the biggest loss for my pitching was Jeffrey Springs. He's going to be out a while, and that's very unfortunate because he was doing so well. I'm really hoping he comes back healthy and is able to help my team later in the season. Even with that 5-11-2 record this week, I'm still remaining first in my division with 18 wins, 13 losses, and 5 ties. A few more waiver wire adds and drops from this league, but nothing too crazy. Like I said last week, Jose Alvarado was going to be one of the ads that I made. He's done well. He did slip up earlier in the week, but did end up getting me a hold, and he's got me 5 strikeouts so far this week. Keeper Ruiz, while I really do like him, he just wasn't doing enough for me in that Nationals lineup. Elias Diaz has been doing great, and if he's going to be playing half of his games at Coors Field, I feel really good about those numbers going up and continuing to stay positive. I dropped 1 current Yankee in Michael King for a former Yankee in Gio Urshela. He was hitting .341 when I picked him up, and has only continued to hit for my team. Another third baseman I picked up with first base eligibility, Spencer Steer. I really like this kid. I'm really thinking that he's going to help those Reds be a much better team than people anticipated. Him hitting behind Jonathan India is really going to help India's numbers and Steer's numbers if he can get those RBIs. NA, I hope you pick me up a win and some strikeouts and don't hurt my ERA or whip decision. I decided to pick up Trevor Williams. He did not factor into the decision, only gave up 1 earned run and did what he was supposed to do, even though I wish he would have gotten me the win. After Trevor Williams served his purpose, I dropped him and picked up Jose Quijada, another relief pitcher for the Angels who works in high leverage situations. He's got a 0.00 ERA and a .4 whip. I don't want to jinx it, but he very well could be taking over the closer role, even though, again, he's used in high leverage situations. We'll see how it goes. And the last team I'm going to talk about this week, Russell My Jim Jams, had a bounce back week going from 9-5-2 to 10-3-3. I'm going to sound like a broken record because I'm going to continue talking about the same guys that helped me win. Austin Hayes, Brandon Marsh, Brandon Nimmo, Spencer Steer, Jonathan India, just to name a few hitting wise. They picked up the runs for me. Austin Hayes had 11, like I said before. They had walks, they had extra base hits, they had home runs, they had steals. They're doing everything for my team, and I'm super happy and excited that they are on my team, especially because they're young guys. They're going to continue to produce, and I'm hoping they can stay on my team as keepers for years to come. Pitching-wise, there were absolutely some stumbles. Some of the ads that I had backfired. To say the least, it backfired on me. My pitching was not phenomenal this week. As you can see, I had a 4+ ERA, but still not bad enough or high enough to lose that category. Gausman and Minto were really the 2 MVPs for this week with the 11 strikeout performance and the 2 saves. I'm really glad they're on my team. I'm really hoping the rest of my pitching staff and rotation can pick it up and help me secure some of these categories so I'm not falling behind and having to pick up on the waiver wire every single week. The 10-3-3 record for this week brought me to 4th overall in this league, 15-12-5 overall. Looking at adds and drops, 2 of the individuals I've picked up, Matt Brash and John Brebbia, have both relief and starting pitching designations. I'll be able to slot them wherever I have to, depending on who's actually starting and who I want to save or pick up holes for my team that day. This kind of backfired on me. Matt Brash got me a win. John Brebbia gave up multiple earned runs in a third of an inning. You win some, you lose some. Tyler Anderson got hammered. Bailey Falter got hammered. Yoan Moncada's hurt. Brendan Donovan decided he didn't want to play until I dropped him from my team. And Tyler Meagle, I just didn't think he had a good matchup coming up. So you'll see I looked at Myles Straw. You'll see I looked at what has seemed to be one of my favorite players to talk about, Spencer Steer. You'll also see that Brandon Marsh was available. With those three players, I'm looking for runs, home runs, and steals. The runs I expect to get from Myles Straw. Stolen bases I expect to get from Myles Straw. Home runs I expect to get from Brandon Marsh. Spencer Steer is kind of an all-around guy. He's going to hit the top of the lineup. He could hit some home runs, and he can be sneaky good on the base paths. With the success that Brendan Donovan has had since he's been off my team, I might pick him up again. So be ready for him to again perform poorly for a few days, because of course he's going to be on my team, and he doesn't want to perform when he's on my team. With those results, I'm left with 3 positives or wins and 2 negatives, which were the losses, obviously. I'm really hoping I can bounce back in the Fantrax League and get my pitching to secure me more points. I'm feeling good with the batting, and I'm really feeling like they're going to be producing more and more throughout the year. As far as the other categorical leagues, I'm really going to need to step up. I only had so many players to play this week, and the other guy just had a phenomenal week. It's going to happen sometimes, but not going to lose hope. Going to keep adding, keep dropping, keep making some trades, or at least trying to make some trades, which I haven't really tried to make any this week or this year, so nothing to really talk about there. But we will hopefully be able to make some, especially if draft picks are involved. And now the part of the program where I'm going to talk about people who I think should be added or have a lot of hype surrounding them. We talked about Brett Baty. I picked him up. I don't know if he's going to do much of anything right now. He did have a cup of coffee with 38 at-bats last year. He only batted 184. So again, we're hoping he's going to improve on those numbers. And we absolutely think he will. He was hitting super crazy numbers when he was at AAA. Another player being called up, Taj Bradley. Especially with Jeffrey Springs and Zach Eflin going down for the Rays rotation, Taj Bradley is going to have to step in. His debut game against the Red Sox, he did pitch 5 innings, gave up 3 runs, but did have 8 strikeouts. He got the win as well, so that's encouraging. Another player that might be receiving a call-up soon is the Athletics pitcher Mason Miller. He doesn't have that many innings pitched in the minor leagues, but the last game he did pitch, he had 11 strikeouts with only 5 hits. He can throw 100 miles an hour, but as we know, 100 mile an hour fastball right down the middle to a major leaguer is going yard. We're going to have to see what else he can mix in his arsenal to get those strikes on major league players, if or when he's called up. Another call-up that did happen for the Angels this week, Zach Neto. He's a shortstop. He has less than 50 games in the minor leagues, but they thought he was one of the best prospects, and they think that he's going to be able to help their team. Actually hitting leadoff for them this week, so we'll see how that goes for him. A few relief pitchers I'd like to talk about, because a lot of my leagues have holds and saves and blown saves as categories to win or lose, are Jose Quijada and Steven Wilson. Quijada, like I mentioned before, plays for the Angels. He works in high leverage situations but has picked up 2 saves. He has a 0.0 ERA right now and a 0.4 whip. I think he's going to continue to work high leverage and pick up some saves. Steven Wilson is strictly a setup guy. Right now, he is working in front of Josh Hader, so you know he's going to be able to pick up those holds because Josh Hader is going to be able to secure those wins if the game is close. Wilson has a 0.84 ERA and a 0.84 whip. That's pretty impressive. He's got 13 strikeouts and 10 in the 3rd innings, and again, I feel like he's going to continue to pick up those holds. The occasional save, but I'm not going to hold my breath for those. Another pitcher I'd like to talk about is Johan Oviedo. You might be thinking to yourself, who is this guy? I don't know who he plays for. Well, he plays for the Pirates, and he just had a 10 strikeout game against the Cardinals. The Cardinals with Nolan Gorman, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, those guys, took a tough luck loss. 2/3 of his pitches were for strikes. He can continue with that. However, be mindful his next game is in Coors. That's not a great matchup for any pitcher. Last player I want to talk about is my boy Garrett Cooper. Picked him up last week in my Fantrax League. Picked him up last year in my Fantrax League. He's a hitting machine. He was hitting 300 last year and then got hurt and missed some games and went down to 260 something. This year he's hitting 333. He sat out some games here and there, but he's very consistent. Hitting in that Marlins lineup, he's not going to get you a whole lot of runs or steals for sure. But he might be able to get you some home runs here and there, and he should be able to get you some steals, especially with Jazz Chisholm hitting in front of him. I like Garrett Cooper. If you need a stash for a first baseman on a rainy day, I would definitely consider looking up Garrett Cooper. Well, that does it for week 2. Please leave comments as to how you're doing in your fantasy leagues. Tell me who you picked up, who you think I should pick up. I'm hoping to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much for joining in. This is Jay Cake. Thank you for spending part of your day with me.